So let me get this straight. Intelligent Systems creates a franchise of well-designed, well-liked, if completely niche tactical warfare games, and then for reasons unknown hands it all off to Hudson for the Game Boy versions. Hudson, a firm known for miserable testaments to human cruelty like the Adventure Island games. What could go wrong? Well, lots of things, but let me tell you what does go wrong. Not much of anything. It's an odd kind of relay, but ultimately Game Boy Wars 2 manages to carry the torch, light the fuse, and bombard the competition. Which there really wasn't any. So maybe they were just putting some craters in the ground. Your tax dollars at work, folks. Quick history lesson. Intelligent developed Famicom Wars a couple years before taking their tactical warfare all medieval and producing Fire Emblem. After finding success with their one-on-one combat sim, the Green Earth and Yellow Comet nations wouldn't be added until Super Famicom Wars sometime later, they took the show on the road with Game Boy Wars, which made the rather radical move of kicking every alternate row of squares over half a column, making the battlefield work more like a traditional war game's hexagonal layout. However, Intelligent soon found themselves inundated with new projects, like more Fire Emblems and the Panel de Pon series, and so they handed the Wars series to Hudson for a time. Hudson jumped right on it, producing first an enhanced version of the original Game Boy Wars that improved the enemy AI and added a bunch of maps. Next came this title, Game Boy Wars 2, which further improved the enemy AI and added a bunch of maps. This opponent takes its turns rather quickly. If only codename Steam had learned from that. Anyway, you've only got 2 forces and no CO powers, as well as no real campaign mode to speak of. That's the bad news. The good news is, that's all the bad news. And it's really only bad news if you're coming directly from Advance Wars and expect everything to be the same. Pretty much every other aspect is either right on point and where you'd expect it to be, or at the very least where you'd expect it to be one hardware generation earlier than the previous version everyone knows and loves. You build units, you capture cities and airports and seaports and such, you engage with the enemy in tactical combat, and you spend piles of money doing so. Just like real warfare, without the politics or worrying about who's right and who's wrong, or, the cost of lives and whatnot. Say nothing about veterans aftercare. All you need to know is that you, the Red Star Army, are right. This is apparently before folks noticed that maybe that name could be considered an allusion to communism and toned down to orange. And the Blue Moon Army deserve to die. This version boasts 54 maps, a boppin' soundtrack for all your military escapades, and a rather impressive level of graphical detail for the modest Game Boy Color. The presentation can be a bit kanji-intensive though, so a bit of experimentation is called for. Much as you'd come to expect from a Wars title, you've also got a map editor where you can create your own battlefields to challenge the CPU or friends with a link cable. But perhaps the coolest innovation is one that I stumbled upon rather randomly. The game auto-saves constantly, and even if you shut the game off abruptly, the next time you power it on, it'll default to offering you the last turn of the last game you played before you even get to the main menu. That's pretty darn slick. It beats the hell out of the various and arcane sleep modes introduced in the GBA era. Beats the hell out of them like a battleship bombarding an infantry unit. Man, I miss Advance Wars. I'm sure Fernando from Zaragoza in Spain agrees with me, and I may threaten him with helicopters unless he also sends us a decent paella.